All right, so we'll try and get this done before the chickens get noisy again. This is take 2. They can get quite loud sometimes. I put a lid on them, so it should be okay, or at least not too bad. Yes, so welcome back. This is a homeschool recap video. This was our first official year homeschooling. We've been kind of doing school stuff for the last couple of years, but this was our first mandatory, have to be registered and record attendance and all kinds of stuff like that. So we live in Delaware, for those of you who don't know, and this the requirements here are pretty minimal, which is really nice. But you do have to record things like your attendance. You do have to register students, and we're required to have 180 days of school classroom education. So this year I did a different style of planner. If you saw the planner that I made last year, I really did like that. I'll link it down below in case you want to look at it. But this year I needed things to be simple and efficient. So I had printed pages, which I'll go over later. Basically a very simple grid that I could fill out what we did just to keep track of things. And if I was feeling extra on top of my game, I kind of sketched out in pencil what I thought we would do for the week. And I would keep those in this binder, and then when I was done the month, put it in here and get the next set of pages for the next month. But I'll show you that later. We did reading. My daughter learned how to read. I won't say it was the most fun thing I've ever done, but we'll get there. And we did fun stuff like how to draw things. I'll show you some of the things that they drew later, but that was just kind of an extra thing. And we did artist study, composer study, and math. We used the Mystery of History book, which I did enjoy, and we're going to be doing the next book of that. We did poetry appreciation, and we did a wide variety of things for science studies. And we did crafts, like handicraft skill type crafts, not like popsicles and glue and googly eyes, not that kind of crafts. I had like tracing pages for the younger boys, things they could practice, you know, holding pen, marker, whatever, learning how to write their name. And we also studied 50 states. We talked about continents a little bit. We're going to be working on that more next year, I think. We studied a variety of bugs, made a fun little poster, and just a whole bunch of stuff. So I'm going to jump right into it. I will put a list of stuff with timestamps down below if you want to just like skip to something, whatever. It's nothing fancy. This is just what we did, and what we liked and what we didn't like. And hopefully it can encourage somebody who's feeling not too put together maybe, but that, you know, your children can still learn quite a lot, just from simple things that you can do easily without spending a whole bunch of money or buying, you know, a whole huge curriculum set or anything like that. So we will go ahead and jump into it. I also apologize for the flies. We don't have screen doors, and they've just been crazy lately. So if you see them flying around in front of the camera, sorry. It's kind of unavoidable. We have like fly tapes and stuff, but there's only so many that they can catch. All right, let's just jump right into it. This was the main folder that I used for my planning. I just had a simple printable spreadsheet that I could add the month and the day of the, what day, so like Monday the 5th or whatever. And then time blocks. We didn't really stick to the time blocks, but just roughly helped me keep track of what we did when. Some days we went more and some days were shorter. It also depended on how stubborn my children were being and how distracted they were. So some days it was like we started at 8 o'clock actually and finished at 9:30 because they were really in a hurry. They woke up early and they were on top of everything. Some days we would start at 9:30 and not finish until 12:30. So that was very dependent on them and their attitudes. But I would keep those in there and put the monthly calendar here. If we had any appointments, I could write it on that just to keep track of things. And then any things that we were using multiple times during the week, I would keep here. Like we did a couple of hymns and Christmas carols around Christmas time. So we would study each verse, listen to it, sing it, maybe play it on guitar or ukulele, and I would keep that on this side because it was something we used multiple times per week. And then when we were done with it, I would move it over to this notebook. So that's their picture day. We have pictures. I ask them questions. And then I have a very simple attendance sheet, kind of a bullet journal style setup, but just for the year, and then each month, days, and every day that we did school, I would check it off and add up how many days we did school that month until we were done. So we finished up, let's see, on May 21st and had actually it was 181 days. I miscounted. And we finished on Friday, so it was just a little bit more than we needed. So as you can see, I blocked it out. Initially, I was penciling things in a lot, what I wanted to do, and then I'd just go over and pen if we actually did it. If we had any appointments or anything, I could write it down at the bottom. And if we just weren't doing anything on those days, I just marked it off. So like here, this was Labor Day. We did school on Labor Day because we didn't have anything else to do. And then these days, the next week, we were sick. So we just kind of watched educational videos and called it good. Yeah, so you can see it's pretty simple every month, and then just write down. And these days we had a field trip and all kinds of stuff. So we would have like reading lessons, and then we'd have math, and we did state studies. I counted skills like laundry as part of their education because it's important to learn those things. So that's my very, very simple note-taking, keeping track of what we were doing when and where. Yes, maternity leave. I took off a couple days for that. They did some work with my mom while they were at her house, and then I took off. I took a 4-day weekend, and then we were right back at it on Monday the next week because I'm just sitting down mostly, and it's not too difficult. So that is my planner, and I'll show you some of the things that we actually did. All right, now where should we start first? We did do our Pledge of Allegiance and prayer every morning, and we did a series of Bible verses. I just picked them at random, so some of them were short and easy to remember, like this one, and then some of them were a bit longer, and more complicated, like this one. We also did Psalms 23, so that's our, let's see, we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, including Psalms 23, which we did together as well. And they did really, really well with memorizing those. We also like to start our day with some poetry. That was just poetry appreciation, not analyzing or studying it or anything. So we read through A Child's Garden of Verse by Robert Louis Stevenson. And then we did Where the Sidewalk Ends by Shel Silverstein. And then we were working through this golden book of poetry that we picked up at the thrift shop. So it has some of Robert Louis Stevenson stuff and other ones that we had heard before, but it just has a really nice selection of good poetry for kids. So that's what we did for our poetry study, and we would just read at least 1, if not 10 poems a day, depending on the day. We did a little bit of music study, a tiny bit of piano, some ukulele, whistles, just a variety of things for music. Let's see, what else? We did short stories. Here's a couple of those. I really like Beatrix Potter. We did do other ones as well, but we did a lot of Beatrix Potter because they're just short, good stories, good language, nice wording and grammar and whatnot. And they would listen to those and then give me a narration to, kind of sum up what they had heard in the story. And let's see, there's math. Math I'm going to be doing a little differently this year. We did a lot of math, but we didn't use a particular curriculum. So I have this book that I picked up somewhere, and it's Practice Activities. That's not my name, that's whoever had it before me. And they're copyable and printable, so it starts out really simple. And then they get into more complicated stuff, addition, subtraction, money, calendar stuff. So we worked through a lot of that. We didn't do the whole book. Those are the copied pages. And I picked up just some simple addition and subtraction practice books from the Dollar Tree, actually, for her to work on. And that's what we did, and it was good. I had this little math notebook that I made. It's like 1/2 inch square grid. We used it a bit, practicing writing numbers and then simple math problems and stuff at the beginning of the year. But we didn't use it too much. So that worked well. But I felt like it was, initially I thought, simple math, it's pretty easy, don't really need a curriculum, but I feel like there were some things that we kind of missed out on. So we're changing the way we do math next year. We also, for geography, we did a state study, and I picked up this book last year, I guess, just from the Dollar Tree, and I saw it and I thought, well, that's a fun little book. So it goes through all the states alphabetically, and it shows you the state and, the main cities and the capital, and gives you facts like the capital name and when it became a state, wildflower, bird, insect, fruit, different facts. And then it tells you a little bit about each state. So we went through this book, and I had a blank map, so we would do one a day, and find it on the map and color it in and put its abbreviation on it. We use the state song, which I'll link down below. It's a fun song, really good for review. And then after we finished that, we started going back through the states in order of statehood. Ironically, we're in the first state, and the first state is the first state, so we got to do our own state first. And I would have my daughter write the names on there and what number it was, and they act as little folders. Humidity got to that one. And we would just find out facts about the state and print out little pictures from those facts. So we would look at the map, find out state animals, state fruit, nicknames, things like that, and put them in these folders. So that was a good way to learn it, and they know quite a lot about states, and I've learned a lot more than I ever knew, so that's always fun. This is a ongoing project, one of our skill projects. I had my daughter choose a quilt pattern that she liked and materials, and we've been working on those. So someday it'll get finished, and that'll be her own quilt that she made. And I'm gonna do that with all the kids. So that's a sewing machine project. My daughter does know how to hand sew. She also has some cross stitch stuff that she would do, and crochet and other things. She has a weaving loom. So that's other things that she would do for handicrafts. Now for reading, we mostly use this book, Teach Your Child to Read in 100 Easy Lessons. This is the book that I learned how to read from. Actually, it's the exact same book because my mom kept it. And it really works really well. My daughter was a little bit stubborn with it. I don't know where she would have got that at. But we made it through the whole book. And if anybody's interested, I can make a longer video about this. But it goes through 100 easy lessons, and by the end of it, your child's reading at a 3rd grade reading level. So, I highly recommend it. We did try using the Bob books. This did not work so great for my daughter because she is really good at memorizing things, and she would just memorize it and not actually read anything. So they're good little books for now that we're done reading, but they didn't work for us as far as learning to read. With this, we also had, I started out writing the lessons down because all of the extra words in the book were a bit distracting for her. But once we got to the point where it was just too much, I kind of forced her to transition over to actually reading out of the book. But for a long time, I copied the lessons out, just her parts, so she wasn't seeing all the extra. It's a parent and teacher book, and then that was just copying, practice writing letters, which is part of the reading book. All right, so that went together, and then when she was finished with the reading book, we took a little bit of a break from reading because she was just really tired of it. But we worked through a couple of books. We had word family activities and spelling puzzles and phonics, and she's always liked writing, so kind of combining the reading and writing stuff really worked well with her. So we just went through those couple of books till the end of the year, just working on remembering what she had learned in a slightly less stressful way. So those are just little books that I picked up at the Dollar Tree. I've picked up lots of little workbooks from the Dollar Tree. They have a lot of fun little stuff. We also did, I'm gonna move these out of the way so you can see better. We also did Copywork, which initially I had her copy like our memory verses, but looking at the card and writing it was kind of difficult. So I started, when we started doing our reading book, I would write out the story or part of the story, and then she could work on copying it. So that was our Copywork book. Some pages are a little neater than others. This one is pretty good. And then some pages would get a little sloppy. Like I said, it all depends on what kind of mood she's in. But for the most part, her Copywork came out really well. So that was just one of the things that went with our reading time. For fun, we have these little books that my sister-in-law actually gave me a pack of. And the idea is that they draw a picture and then tell you a story that goes with it. And you write down the story for them. So we have a whole nother book full of these. And that was something fun that she liked to do. We also did a little bit of Chinese character writing. We didn't do that consistently throughout the whole year. I may have mentioned my husband is Chinese and his parents live with us now, so I counted them living with us as kind of a daily submersion language course. This is another extra that we did. I mentioned we did kind of once a week maybe, and that was like drawing animals with shapes. So they would watch a little how to draw video, and I let them pick which one they wanted to do. So sometimes it was butterflies, sometimes it was dinosaurs. There's an elk, horses. That was a swordfish, a little monster. So that was just something a little extra fun, and getting them to think more about how they draw things with shapes and whatnot. For history, we kind of did two different things, or three things. So we used the Mystery of History book, and I really enjoyed that for the most part. It does a very good job of covering a lot of different things around the world in order from a Christian point of view. Her writing style is a little annoying to me, but what is covered is really good, and it can always be expanded on. So a lot of the Bible stuff that she puts in, I would just tell it because I know it really well. And then things that maybe I didn't know very much about, we could go and find out more information about them. So let me see, let's find something. So like Homer, we could learn more about him and the things that he did, or looking at maps to see where places are. The Olympic Games, that was a fun one. We had actually just finished watching the Summer Olympics last year, so my children were fairly familiar with the idea of the Olympics, so learning how it got started was fun. We also have a Book of Centuries, which is a Charlotte Mason thing. I'm not strictly Charlotte Mason, but I really appreciate a lot of her ideas, so we do a strong Charlotte Mason flavor to our school stuff. So we would, every time we learn about something, we write it down, and each 2-page spread is 1 century. Another book that we used, because my kids really like biography type stuff, we have this book that my mom found and gave to my daughter, and it's Everyone a Child Should Know. And it's little one-page biographies, basically, of all kinds of people from different times. And the common theme is that they're all Jesus friends, and what that meant to them, and what they did as a friend of Jesus, and how we can be Jesus friends and do things for him as well. So it was a really fun little book, and we would mark those off in our Book of Centuries as well. That was kind of a supplemental history thing. And also, anytime we learned about somebody else or something else, we would just stick it in our Book of Centuries. So like we did composer study, you know, if we talk about Bach, we can write down when he lived in here as well. And when they get older, they'll get their own Book of Centuries to keep and add things into on a regular basis. So that was that. We did do a little bit of composer study. Not a whole lot, but a little bit. We listened to Bach and Chopin and a little bit of another one, which I can't remember right now. Like I said, that was kind of a off and on thing. We did artist study, which was really fun. I really enjoyed that a lot. We started with Johannes Vermeer, and then we went to Vincent van Gogh, and then Winslow Homer. I let them choose which artist they wanted to do next. And then when we were done with it, I just made these folders to keep it in. So it's just a regular manila folder. And inside are, oops, upside down, there we go. Inside I have, those were some coloring pages we did as a review at the end of the year. But we have a variety of his paintings. So we would choose one per week to talk about, and we would look at the colors and talk about the name and find out when he painted it, if there's any story that goes with these pictures. We talk about that. And at the beginning of each study, we would learn a little bit about the artist as a person. So that was a lot of fun. At the end, we did three artists with 12 pictures each. Picked 12 of their most famous paintings. And then at the end of the year, we did a 3-week review, one artist per week. And I let them color some printable coloring pages of those artists' work, just for fun. So, like I said, this year we did Johannes Vermeer, and then Vincent van Gogh, and Winslow Homer. Next year we'll learn 3 more artists, and that's a bit of a Charlotte Mason thing also, but I really, really enjoyed that. Now, for science, we didn't do a ton of science stuff. It's more appreciation. So we read some living books. That's a Charlotte Mason thing as well. I have this Usborne Science Activities Volume 1, and we didn't do all of these, but we did do a number of the water ones, which the kids really enjoyed. Every once in a while I would catch them flipping through this book and another book that we have and just deciding that they were going to do their own experiments without mommy, because mommy wasn't doing as many as they wanted. So that's pretty cool. Like I said, we didn't do all of these. We'll do more next year. I know I remember doing some of these as a child myself, like the celery in different colors. and watching beans grow and things like that. So that's one thing that we did for science. We also did a bit of weather, so we would talk about what the weather was like, make observations between days, and then we would check the weather forecast, and we kept a little weather journal. My daughter would write the date and what the high and the low temperature was, wind speed, and just the general forecast over the different days. So that was just a little side thing that we did. And we also tried to do, not particularly successfully, but I haven't given up on it. We made little bags. So that was a project in and of itself, and got them some little notebooks and little packs of pencils to do nature study and nature journaling. So when we would find things, like we found 2 really cool butterflies. So we looked them up and found out what their names were and draw a picture of the butterfly that we found, put the date on it, and I helped them write the names for it. So we had found some some red spotted purple admirals and eastern tiger swallowtail. And then some other random things that she found. That was the first day that we did it. And the idea is that you get them out in nature and get them just looking around and observing and recording things. And it's never supposed to be graded. It is for their own personal record, and you can encourage them with different things, you can help them with things, but it's just basically a nature journal to help them get used to the idea of paying attention and observing the world around them. Now, I love this idea. I think it's a great idea. My children did not do very good with it last year, and I'm still working on figuring out how to make it work better. But I think part of the thing is they spend a lot of time outside. So it's difficult for them to slow down and appreciate and listen to things that they're so familiar with. But we're going to work on that. We did do a couple of nature walks earlier in the year when I was not very pregnant and still able to drive. That's a long story in and of itself. I can drive again now, and I'm not very pregnant. So we will do a lot more of that next year. A lot more experiments, and we did study various insects, which we had a poster. I'll show you a picture of that here in just a second. And then like I said, we read some books about different kinds of animals. We read books about dinosaurs and snakes and insects. On Beyond Bugs is a fun one. It's a Dr. Seuss one, but it's all about different kinds of bugs and what makes them unique and whatnot. So we'll be doing a lot more living books with our history next year. Let's see, do I have anything else? Oh, here's some stuff. These really handy little plastic folders you can pick up at the Dollar Tree, and those are great for tracing, for practice for little ones, practicing numbers and letters and writing their name. So that's just about it for the things that we did. We watched a lot of videos, we took some field trips, and just a lot of really practical stuff as well. So that is just about it for the things that I can remember that we studied this year. If you have any questions, feel free to comment down below and I will try and answer those for you. And stay tuned for my plans for next year. So I mentioned that we're going to be doing math a little bit differently, and I'm working on getting everything figured out ahead of time so that I can enjoy the rest of the summer. Yeah. All right, I'll see you guys again next time. Bye. Bye bye.